All right, let's take a look at exit slip 10. So here we're looking at volume of surface area and volume of spheres and hemispheres. So number one, it wants us to calculate both of this sphere. So we can start with first writing out the formula. So the surface area of our sphere is 4 pi r squared, where the volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. So I always try to remember that with volume, we just put in the 3's. So it's very similar to the surface area formula. We just put in the 3's into the formula. Okay, and if you notice, the only variable that we have in both of these formulas is the radius. So all we need to do is look at the diagram and figure out what the radius of our sphere is. So if the whole diameter is 18, that means the radius is 9. So we're just going to plug in 9 in both of these formulas for the radius, and then we just have to evaluate, and you can use your calculator to help. We'll start order of operations, tell us to do the squaring first. So 9 squared is 81. 81 times 4 gives us 324 pi square centimeters. That's the surface area of this sphere. The volume, again, we'll do the exponents first, 9 cubed, and then we can do times 4 divided by 3, and that gives us 972 pi cubic centimeters here. Remember, whenever you're doing volume, you always cube your units. So that is the first one using the formulas. Pretty straightforward. Hopefully that made sense. Let's take a look at number 2. We have a hemisphere. So the surface area and the volume formulas change slightly. So the surface area of a hemisphere is half of the volume, but then we have to add on that base. So it's 3 pi r squareds. And then the volume is just split in half. So instead of 4/3, it's 2/3 pi r cubed. Again, all we need is that radius, and they tell us that the radius is 7 in the diagram. So we just plug in the 7 for both of the r's in our formulas and then evaluate. So 7 squared is 49. 49 times 3 is 147 pi square feet. Don't forget the pi. And the volume, 7 cubed times 2 divided by 3. And then change your answer into a fraction, 686/3 pi, and then cubic feet. Don't forget the pi comes before the units. Some common mistakes: don't put this 3, don't say 686/3 pi cubed, because then you're telling me to cube pi, to cube 4.13. We don't want to do that. So just be really careful, make sure you're writing everything down where it should be. Okay, so we have surface area and volume of sphere, hemisphere, and now we just have a problem where we're have to solve it where instead of being given a diagram with the radius or the diameter, now we're given the circumference of our sphere is 36 pi. That means the circumference of the great circle. So if you have a sphere, the great circle goes right through the center of it. And so a circumference, remember, is the distance around. So circumference is 2 pi r. They're telling us that that circumference is 36 pi. So we can divide both sides by pi, then divide both sides by 2 and get that the radius is 18. So this information is just a little bit more complicated way to figure out what the radius is. Once you know what the radius is, then you can go ahead and calculate the volume of this sphere. Remember, sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed, and all we're going to do is plug in the radius of 18 into that to figure out what the total volume is. So the radius is 18, and then we can just simplify. So 18 cubed times 4 divided by 3 gives us 7,776 pi, and it is cubic feet. All right, guys, I hope that made sense. Email us with any questions.